So the movement phase is important in determining how the shooting phase is going to go, since you determine a lot at that particular moment.
Yeah, pretty much all your options are decided, whether you can shoot, period. And honestly, movement phase just wins games. So if you can shoot,
Yeah.
you take your opponent models out, and if you can't shoot, you can't, which is better for me.
Yeah, you'll hear, I mean, it's not the first time probably, and it definitely won't be the last time that you've heard us say that the game is won and lost in the movement phase. We really, really do believe that. But so you move around, you run around, and then comes time to shoot. This video is about the shooting phase, after all. And so when it's your turn to shoot, there's a couple steps you have to run through to make sure you can make the shot and to determine how the shot's going to go. So the first step is visibility. Just, can your model see another model? And this one is super simple. It's just, can my plastic see your plastic?
Or resin.
Or fine cast. Depends on how unlucky you are.
Yeah.
But it's just any part of the model. Can any part of the shooting model see any part of the model being shot at? It can be a tip of a gun to a tip of a gun. If that's all you've got, then you can still make that shot.
And we've also house ruled the fact that sometimes modeling is really fun, and you add stuff on your model like boss pulls on boss knobs that don't need to be there technically. And it is completely fair game as long as you're upfront with your opponent that this is not considered part of my model for my shooting or for being shot at. It's got to be a two-way street.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, this video is, generally talking, maybe competitive play or rules as written play. If you're playing with your buddy at home, you guys can make up whatever you want. You can, determine what constitutes line of sight. You can say that, you may change the rules. But for the purpose of this is sort of, your standard competitive play. Show up to a tournament, everyone's working with the same rule set kind of deal. But okay, so we talked about visibility. Plastic to plastic, or resin, or fine cast, or metal, or whatever. Model to model.
Chewing gum on a base.
Yeah, there you go. That would be a pink horror?
Yeah.
Maybe
or blue horror, depending on flavor.
I don't want to know what brimstone is. But okay, so visibility. And now there's obscurity. And obscurity is just when you're looking at these two models, from the shooting model, can you pick a part of their main body, so their head, their arms, their torso, their legs, and can that see every part of the main body of the model they're shooting at? So this is, and it's just if anything's blocking it, anything at all, it can be another model, it can be a piece of terrain. If it blocks, then the model's obscured.
Yeah, true line of sight. And I'll be honest, and I think you'll echo this. This is something that initially playing this game, I think most of us mess up because line of sight is confused for obscurity quite often. Used to be that people would model their models, and if this little tip of the gun was peeking around the corner, you could draw a line from that tip of the gun to see the entire opposing model, and you would say that I have no obscurity on the shot.
We honestly played that way for a really long time until we realized that we'd been messing it up.
Yeah, so it's even if the tip of his gun can see all of your model, it's still an obscured shot because no part of his main body can see all parts of your main body.
Right.
And that's where obscurity begins and ends.
Yes. So if you've got a model parked on top of a piece of terrain and you've got your gun tip sticking out over the edge so you can spray fire down below, everyone below you is still obscured if you can't see them from your body.
Yep.
And the next thing that comes kind of after are you obscured is are you in cover?
Yeah,
now,
that really only plays a role for the injury rule.
Yes, obscurity affects the roll to hit, and being in cover affects the injury roll.
Yeah.
So you cannot be in cover if you are not obscured. So that's the first step for determining if something's in cover. First of all, it has to be obscured. And second of all, there has to be a piece of terrain between the two models within an inch of the model being shot.
That's not necessarily providing the obscurity.
Correct.
And that's the part that I think a lot of people overlook.
Including us for a long time.
Yeah, we learned this not because we're savants, it's because we screwed up until we got it right. And a very easy way to just kind of hand wave this is, say for example, a shot is being fired across the field. There's something in the middle of the field that is providing obscurity, but this guy over here is within 1 inch of a terrain feature. If this shot is angled in a way that this terrain feature does not provide obscurity, but this model is obscured, for example, by this terrain feature, this barricade right here, there is a -1 to the injury roll made against this model.
Yes.
If this terrain feature is not there, and there's obscurity from this terrain feature, this model does not have any modifiers on the injury roll made against it.
No. And so tucking in and getting something within 1 inch of you is super important if you're thinking you're going to get shot at.
Yeah. And that actually segues into the next kind of has to do with this, but kind of doesn't. And it all has to do about your approach to the shooting phase, depending on whether you win or lose your initiative, and whether you want to shoot or want to avoid shooting. So, scenario 1, Admech versus Orcs. I think we have a lot of experience playing that. Thunk? You win initiative. This is really easy because...
And by win initiative, we mean I get higher on the dice.
Yes. That's important because technically winning initiative is losing initiative on the dice roll.
Yes.
Because if you go second in the movement phase, all the decisions are yours. Aside from getting charged and making charge and stuff like that. But if we're talking about...
Turn 1,
initiative roll, losing initiative is actually a benefit. But we'll go with Admech has higher on the initiative dice. You win the initiative, rules as written, right? So you do all your movement, very easy for the orc player or the melee player, whoever, because then they just hide from all your movement.
Yes.
The only thing to consider as an orc player is looking at those shooting phase modifiers. You not only want to be obscured, but you also want to tuck in as close as you can to terrain features to be within 1 inch, so that way not only can you try and either block shots, at least get a -1 for obscurity, or -2 if you're rolling something like a commando, or anything that gives you additional minuses to being in cover. But in addition to that, you also want to get that -1 on your injury roll. So you want to be within the cover, even if it's within intervening terrain, even if you don't think it is going to provide obscurity.
Right.
Now, for Admech, how does that situation play out for you when you're trying to move around to get shots when you don't know where their shots are going to be?
So at that point, you have to look at the battlefield and take your best guess as to where they're going to go and try to hide, and do your best to deny those positions. Spread your models out, cover as many firing lanes as you can. Maybe give them a spot on the field where they can hide, but it's going to be further back from you. So they can make the choice of, hiding further back, which is beneficial to you because then it's going to delay them getting into your lines, or they can come a little bit more forward and you'll still be able to shoot them. But it's a probability game at this point. You don't know exactly where they're going to end up, so you just have to read the field and do the best you can to give yourself as many options no matter what your opponent does.
Giving you options and denying...
Yes, giving the shooting team options and denying the hiding melee team as many options as possible.
Yeah. So then flip that.
Oh boy, I like it when it's flipped.
So as orcs or as a melee option, if I am trying to avoid shooting phase, but I roll higher on the initiative roll and win initiative, I'm basically doing the inverse of what we just described. I'm looking to see where his firing lines can potentially be, and trying to find the option that is safest that either he can't make a vision on, or spread my models out in a way that he can at least have all the options available. I'm trying to deny him some, while I might have to allow some. And then I think it's very easy.
Yeah, and then it's
for you. I think if you go second on the initiative roll, that essentially segues into the exact next thing you're going to talk about.
Right. So you may have noticed there's a ruler down on the field. And so if you go second, first of all, you get to decide what line of sights you want. You get to pick who's going to shoot what. But so we talked about the modifiers from cover and from obscurity, but there's another modifier for range. If someone's at long range, then you've got a -1 to hit. So now, and then if they're just outside of the gun's range, they've got a -infinity to hit. So how do you use that to your advantage? So we've got Butch Cassidy, the plasma caliber sniper, chilling out here, and he's got an 18-inch gun. We've got a ammo run with a 6-inch grenade, Burn a Boy with an 8-inch flamer, the Red Gabo with his 12-inch custom Grot Blasta, and the Daka Watch frag cannon chilling out back here.
I don't know what you're talking about. He's just a normal human.
Packed. He's a grot packed into power armor. Actually, he's probably like 5 grots packed into power armor, one for each limb, one sticking his head out the top. But so how do these ranges match up? So ideally, if you're going second and you have your pick of however you want to position, the battlefield's going to affect where you want to hide. But if you want to optimize your range, you look at what you've got and you look at what your opponent's got.
And one important point to make is that the book is dense, and there are so many war gear options, so many different armies out there. It's not your responsibility to know what your opponent has to a T. You can have some general understanding of all the other models out there, but you don't need to memorize the 8-inch, 12-inch, 6-inch, 36/8-inch of all these weapons out here. If you find someone who's not willing to tell you that, you pick up your models and you leave that table, because that's not someone you want to play against.
That's not a fun game. It's your responsibility to know what your models do.
Yeah.
And it is your responsibility also to convey that to your opponent when they ask.
Precisely.
Yes.
Precisely.
And I regularly ask my opponents before a game, hey, what's that gun? What's that gun do? And then I'm running what I'm about to show you guys through my head and thinking, okay, these are the ranges I want to engage this opponent at. So, let's talk about the Red Gabo back there. He's got a 12-inch pistol versus my 18-inch Assault 2.
As well as a healthy helping of holiday cheer. No, not again.
No. Okay, so right now we're just inside 12 inches. So both of us are shooting each other at long range.
Correct.
So
that's 9 inches plus for you,
9 inches,
and 6 inches plus for me.
Right, and we're both chilling at just under 12. But if I can sneak forward and get in a band between 6 inches and 9 inches, all of a sudden I've taken away my penalty for long range and left him with his. So now I have optimized my odds just from the range perspective on this. We can still take cover into account, that's all very much battlefield dependent, but just from the perspective of range, this band right here, the 6 to 9 inches is a great place for me to exist, this 3-inch band. Another great place for me to exist is pull back outside of 12 inches. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if he can't hit me, I'm going to win the gunfight. So there's that. And then...
At the least, nothing happens.
Yes. The worst, nothing bad can happen to you. You may not hit him, but he will definitely not hit you. So now let's take a look at the Burna. So the Burna's got an 8-inch auto-hitting weapon right there. So these two guys are in a shootout. I'm just inside 8 inches. I can be as hidden as can be, and he does not care because he has an auto-hitting weapon.
And to add on that, a lot of people with auto-hitting weapons will also stack that on a demo specialist, meaning that they want you to be hidden, giving a +1 to their wound roll.
So that's not great.
No.
So I can pull back outside of the 8 inches and be happy as a clam because he can't shoot me. But now there's this magic little number against Burna's, shooting with a plasma caliber, called 8.5 inches.
Burna's, any type of flamer, any type of auto hit, I think, including the auto hit profile on the
frag cannon
over here. Your 8.5 inches is the sole reason why I stopped taking flamers.
Burna's and auto hitting weapons, which generally have an 8-inch range, are very easily shut down with a ruler.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, and with a 18-inch gun, I want to be within 9 inches to avoid my range penalty. So hovering at 8.5 gives me everything I can want in the world, and shuts down everything he can do back.
Yep.
So that's that magic little number. And while we're on the topic of auto-hitting weapons, let's look at the frag cannon. So the frag cannon has a 36-inch range, if I'm not mistaken. So if I'm inside 18 inches so I can shoot him, he's inside half range. He doesn't have a range penalty, but I still do. So I want to ideally run forward, stay outside of 1 inch from this orc, and get within 9 inches. So both of us are hitting without a long range penalty.
Why don't you get within 8?
Oh, that's a real bad idea.
Just sit right here. Just hang out right there.
I don't like that too much because he's auto hitting, and that's not great. So again, this is one of those situations where I want to be hiding right at that 8.5 if I possibly can.
Which is math over here, maybe. I don't know.
Somewhere around there. But yeah. And then the other thing to consider are grenades. Grenades are kind of a weird case. They're all generally 6 inches, I think. There might be some outside there that are different, but they don't have range penalties. So let's say that I'm shooting that for whatever reason I have a 6-inch gun, and we're parked here at 5 inches away from each other, and you're lobbing a grenade at me and taking no range penalty because grenades just don't do that, but I still have it. So if we're shooting each other, I'll want to be within that 3-inch range so neither of us have that penalty.
Or even better than that, outside of the 6.
Outside of the 6. Well, that was if I had my 6-inch gun.
Oh,
if,
fair enough.
If this was with my imaginary 6-inch plasma caliber. with my real life 18-inch caliber. Yes, I want to be tucked somewhere between 6 and 9 inches, which keeps me out of the range penalty and means that you can't throw a darn thing at me.
Yeah, he's gonna try.
He's gonna try, and it's not gonna make it. But it'll make loud noises, and he'll be happy.
Yes.
So, the last thing to consider, and one more thought we had about this as we were setting this up and thinking, is about elevated positions and shooting. So
what you like to call your snipers.
My sniper nests. So when I, as a shooting player, am facing a melee team, love to find a high place because it gives me more things to shoot and makes it harder for them to get up into me and to charge, because all of a sudden you have vertical distance in addition to horizontal distance that you have to chew up. But playing another shooting team, it can be a little interesting because by the first rule that we discussed of determining how you can shoot, if I can see you, you can see me. So a shooting guy looking down on another shooting team has more people shooting back at him.
Yeah. The only caveat to that is when Senor Plasma is up here, even if there is, say, a flash kit, or let's put the frag cannon down here, even if he is shooting up at you within range, because you're at an elevated position, just because of how geometry works, you are always going to be within 1 inch of intervening terrain, even if it doesn't give you obscurity, because you're standing on a floor. And just the way the angle works, you're always going to be within 1 inch of that floor, so you're always going to get that -1 to your injury roll made against you if it gets that far. So,
yeah, if the model's below you, their head has to be lower than your feet. So your feet will always be in cover, always be in obscurity. So
would you say it's over Death Watch because I have the higher ground?
Oh,
I did it.
Bad. Oh, that's bad.
I'm sorry. That felt bad coming out.
And on that note, Internet, I apologize for my co-creator, and we'll call that one a good game.
Good game.